Not going to follow my slides completely.
Stress me out again.
Completely, I'm not going to follow them. And you have all this information. So I wrote this class actually in 2016. And here's what I don't want. And I don't want to give you all this over-the-top, depressing information that is going to ruin your day. Right?
Okay.
Agreed?
Yep.
This is a major concern right now is arthritis. And while you're waiting, before you have your pen, here's what I want to start with. So I realize that most people can't think past 10 or 15 years for what they want in their future. I realize that because I've struggled with that for some time too. If you can think what you want your life to be like in 30 years, that's what I want you to write down on this piece of paper. If you're sitting in this room and you're like, I can't think of my life past 10 years, then that's the number. But I urge you, whatever number comes to your head, if it's 3, multiply it by a couple and add some more. So if you consider yourself to be young enough that you're planning to be around for another 50 years, then add 5 and make it 55. Okay? If you're thinking that you can't think of your life past 20 years, add 5 more. Because we don't want to limit ourselves. Okay? So just think for a moment, while I get everything ready here, what your picture of your 20 or 30 year life is going to look like. And just write down a couple of things on the back of the paper that really you want to be defining in your life. I'll give you an example. I'm going to have, in 30 years, a 30-and-a-half-year-old baby girl. And I would love if my baby girl had no debt, because I have lots of school debt. I would love it if she had an opportunity to not carry that. But I chose to become a doctor. But if she chose to become a doctor, I'd like to pay for that for her. I'd like to still be married to my wife. I'd like to be healthy. I'd like to have, never have any concern about any of these scary diseases that they blast you with on the radio and on the television. It doesn't exist in my realm in 30 years. No fear. I have zero fear of ever having cancer. I have zero fear of ever having arthritis. None. Doesn't exist. And, I'd like to have a healthy body to do things like go hunting for a week or go swimming in the lake. So write down whatever it is for you. Make it personal for yourself. I'm not going to ask you what it is. Okay, Indy might teach the class for me. She likes to get a little bit loud in these. Hopefully you wrote down something. Now, here's what I want to help you understand, is that if you have any doubt or fears about where you're going to be in 10, 15, 20, or 30 years, know one thing, and that is a human manufactured false reality. Whatever your fears are, you've manufactured in your own head, and it's really actually a false reality, because none of it has actually ever happened yet. So when I start thinking about my health for my family, I could think of a million different things that could go wrong that would interfere with my 30-year plan for where I'm going to be. I can think of more things that could go wrong than can go right if I really put my mind to it. So if you have any doubts or fears, that's why I said add 5 years to wherever you think you're going to be, and turn it into 35. Because you can't have love and life and expression and fear at the same time. You can only either have one or the other. You can't be fearful about your future and be loving where you're at the same time. One day you can be fearful of your future, and the next day you can be loving where you're at. But at the same time, you can't have both. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up to you with this arthritis conversation is, when is the best time to learn about arthritis? Take a guess.
Yes. Now.
Right now.
Right now? Good? Yeah. Before it ever shows up. Okay? And some people are here because they have arthritis and they want to know some tips and they want to know what magic thing I'm going to tell you. And I always want to start by saying, look at the person to your left and right and say, this class is for you.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah. This class is for you. If you're 24 years old or if you're 94 years old, this class is for you. Right. And the reason that I teach these classes is because if you're 94 years old and you have arthritis, who in your life do you need to teach this to?
Everybody's
All the younger ones.
Especially the younger ones. Because I know for my grandfather, he's 86 years old, I know that the one most important thing in his life, probably to him more important than his wife, is his grandkids. I know it. Okay? So this really doesn't mean anything if you don't share it with someone. Fair? And I'm not going to go over every single one of these slides in the way that Stephanie would like. Because once you understand that this is a serious issue, it doesn't matter what the statistics are. Is that what's going on? Okay. The reality is that the system is set up to give you fear. And I told you it's impossible to have life, love, and fear at the same time. So when I go home, sometimes I actually do like to watch Jeopardy. And I know that there is no television program that has more fear-based healthcare than Jeopardy, because I've seen it. Every third commercial is a commercial that is going to put fear inside of your head. So the system is set up to tell you from a very young age, to program you, that 1 in 5 of you are going to have some form of arthritis. And 1 in 3 of you are going to have cancer. And 1 in 3 boys are going to have autism, right? They've programmed this into our head. And my job is to help unwind this terrible program that they've unfortunately given you. Okay? 1 in 5 people won't have arthritis if they learn these principles. And here's the kicker. My job as your doctor, as hard as this might sound, is not to heal you. My job is to pour my love and service to you and teach you how to never have to live this life. Because I can't do anything to heal people. I can be a part of your healing, but I can't do it. So when you see these statistics and you hear these crazy things when you're watching Jeopardy tonight at 7 o'clock, know that this doesn't have to be you and it shouldn't be you, because that's what they want you to feel. You got it? So here's the dark side of the story, is that there's 50 million Americans diagnosed with arthritis. 20 million Americans have osteoarthritis. So that's the biggest group. So let's just go there a little bit. There's lots of different forms of osteoarthritis. And know that anything that the CDC says, it's probably got some conflict involved with it. All right? 50 million Americans diagnosed. 1 in 2 people develop osteoarthritis in their lifetime. So if they tell us that 1 in 2 people are going to get osteoarthritis, I need to look at that and I need to say, how can we be proactive in fighting against arthritis, not how can we be reactive? Okay? Healthcare that is reactive is dangerous. Even though healthcare that's reactive might save your life in a moment of crisis, it can do something very bad for your life and your health in the long term if you use reactive medicine and reactive approaches towards health to treat chronic lifestyle issues. Okay? So, we have to focus on proactive healthcare, not reactive healthcare, because the reactive healthcare spends billions of dollars. And trust me, next year, there's going to be more people with arthritis, not less. All right, the blockbuster drug. I like to talk about this kind of stuff because I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, the second largest in the world. And not the company that I worked for, but the company down the road that I could see out of my office building, produced an arthritis inflammatory drug called Celebrex. Had you heard of this? Celebrex single-handedly killed more Americans than the Vietnam War in less time. Because what they found is that Celebrex was causing cardiovascular conditions that were killing people. Over 70,000 people died from the drug Celebrex. That was a blockbuster drug that was introduced to the marketplace to help people with arthritis.
Boy, it helped them all right, didn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
they weren't part of the statistic after that.
And I can tell you right now, I know this stuff deep down in my core because I used to sit in those office buildings, and it's part of my story for why I'm here. Okay? There are lots of different types of arthritis, over 150 types of arthritis. But to break it down simply for you, most people fall into one of three categories. Inflammatory arthritis. If you have inflammatory arthritis, you probably know it before you've ever seen me. Not always true. We've diagnosed people with RA and psoriatic arthritis here. It's just not something that we're going to see every single day. However, maybe some of you in this room have those conditions. Inflammatory arthritis is an autoimmune disease. And what an autoimmune disease is your body has started attacking itself. Think of your body as a car, and they're salting the roads, and the salt is eating away at the body. And instead of removing your car from the salt and washing the salt off the car, you keep patching it up and patching it up and patching it up. And one day your car is eventually going to rot down to the ground. Okay? But even more than that, this inflammatory arthritis is actually your body's own immune system attacking itself. So your brain is not communicating properly with your body, and it's actually going to war against the joints in your body. Rheumatoid arthritis unfortunately affects women more than men. Don't worry, guys, we have our own issues, right? It affects women more than men, and it's very aggressive, and it's very achy, swollen, chronically debilitating joint pain. But remember, it's an autoimmune disease. So if you have this, we have to figure out why your body is attacking itself. And we'll never get well until we get to the bottom of why is your body attacking itself. It's friendly fire. Okay? The second type is metabolic arthritis, most commonly gout. I say metabolic because it's part of the metabolic system of the body. It's how your body's using energy and breaking down foods, and it's breaking down things, and it's creating an inflammatory response, and it has leftover materials, so we don't get overcomplicated here. It has leftover materials from the breakdown of certain proteins and purines in the system, and it doesn't know what to do with them, and it needs to hide them and get them away from vital areas, and it throws them out into joints farthest away from the most vital organs in the body, specifically which joint?
Feet.
The ankles, feet, and the big toe. Okay, it wants to get it away from the heart and the lungs and the liver and the nervous system, so it throws it down there, and we get this swollen big red toe. If that goes unchecked, it can get really nasty really fast. And it's 100% preventable, and it's 100% reversible. Okay? And the third one, osteoarthritis. We're not going to spend a ton of time on either of these, but this is the major one. Okay? And it's the major one because it affects the most people, and we can prevent it from ever happening. This is a really funny picture. Can you guys read that?
Yeah.
This doctor is with his patient right there, and he says, "Yes, that sounded very healthy, but I said I wanted to listen to your heart, not fart," right? Statistics. We don't need more statistics. We know that this is a major issue, and here's what happens. Let's talk about osteoarthritis. Okay? I have a really amazing research study here that I will read for you. Osteoarthritis. To broaden your understanding of how significant an issue the conversation of arthritis is, you must consider the following general outline of where our healthcare dollars and true sickness and crisis disease dollars are spent. In the U.S., roughly 3/4 of the trillions of dollars spent in the U.S. is spent on chronic illness. Roughly 3/4 of the chronic illness are spent on musculoskeletal, and roughly 3/4 of all musculoskeletal illnesses are relating to the spine. So 3/4 of all healthcare dollars are spent on chronic illness. If you ever hear the word chronic, you should be thinking reversible or lifestyle related. 3/4 of the chronic illnesses are spent on musculoskeletal issues, and 3/4 of those dollars are spent on spinal issues. Okay? I, of course, care the most about your spine because it houses the most vital organ in your body, your nervous system. And arthritis happens in your spine just like it happens in other parts of your body. In a very famous research study, Dr. Vitamin, he's from Sweden. He says, research beyond a doubt has proven that immobilization is not only a cause of osteoarthritis, but that it delays the healing process. The role of immobilization was published in the Institute of Occupational Health in, he said Sweden, it's Finland. He also states that osteoarthritic changes and loss of joint mobility can be produced either by a single period of immobilization, meaning up to a few weeks, or repeated short periods of immobilization over several weeks, months, and years. Here's what he says. I'll put it in English now. He says that lack of proper motion is probably the main cause of arthritis. And when you have arthritis, you don't feel like moving because you what? You hurt. And when you hurt, he says, when you still don't move after you've developed this dysfunction, you don't want to move, you hurt, you get inflammation, you still don't want to move because you hurt, and then you get in this cycle. And then the train starts really rolling down the tracks. So here's my breakdown for you. I gave you this slide. So we probably have a stressor initially. It can be a fall, it can be a car accident. And let me teach you something really quick right now. If you're sitting in your chair and you don't feel your glutes properly positioned on the chair, and your back isn't up straight, and your shoulders aren't rolled back, and you don't feel the lumbar spine almost touching the back of the chair, you're breeding arthritis in your spine and in your body. So as I was saying that, I saw some people started moving. They're like, oh crap. You're breeding arthritis inside of your body. So multiply that times a desk job where you sit for 6 hours a day times 30 years. People say, I didn't do anything to get into this situation. And I take an x-ray of the spine and I say, it's precisely what I'm talking about. And they say, Doc, I never hurt, and now I can't get out of bed in the morning. And I look at the x-ray and I say, this has been going on for 30 years. And you didn't know, and it's not your fault. And I can help you if you're willing to work with me. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over a lifetime of dedicating to this process, and you will be healthier if you commit to it. We have an injury, and it can be something as little as weight gain. Even if something as small as 10 pounds, extra 10 pounds on the body will stress your joints enough to create some dysfunction of them. An injury, a fall, weight gain, poor posture. Then there becomes damage to the joint. I'm going to teach that in the next slide. Damage or weakness to the joint, weakness to the muscle. Then your immune system reacts. And what happens when we have an injury? Do things get inflamed? Yes, because that's how your body heals. It sends in the inflammation and the increased blood to heal. We have inflammation, swelling. Long-term swelling creates ligament damage. You think if this knuckle right here gets swollen and it stays swollen for a year, those ligaments are going to be stretched. Creates ligament damage. Then you get pain. Look at where the pain showed up. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 steps in this process. This is my opinion. This is documented. This is what the research tells us. 4 things happen before you feel the pain. And then you have limitations and decreased function, and then the process just continues. 4 things, 4 limiting factors even showed up before pain. And I need you to understand that you can feel really, really good and be really, really sick. And the system has taught us that this is all that matters. And I will teach you, you can't be healthy if this is your only barometer or your only pressure check for how you're healthy you are. And that's how 30 years can go by and you can feel fine and then one day not feel like getting out of bed in the morning. And then I look at you and I say, luckily you showed up. Or God willing you showed up and we got some work to do. Are you ready to roll? All right. This next slide, this is what an electron microscope looks like when we see how scar tissue forms. It's pretty cool, right? Looks like a donut and some, what is that? Silly string. Yeah. Okay. This is the fibrin building process when inflammation stays present in the body. All right, this is really sciencey and we don't need to get into it, but just know that scar tissue is not your friend. Scar tissue is not your friend. Scar tissue is important for the healing process, but if the body heals in a way and creates excess scar tissue, it ain't your friend. Although it's the natural design. Okay, scar tissue in the wrong places creates problems. I really know this because a lot of my patients have had spinal surgery, and I know that the scar over the tissue is responsible for a lot of the pain and dysfunction that they still feel. Right? Science is going to catch up with that. They're going to be using lasers. They already are using lasers. They're going to do whole new healing approaches. They're using different angles because they know this scar is not your friend. And you don't want that around your spine, around your knuckles or toes or anything. We know that motion is the main cause of arthritis. Improper motion will cause you to break down faster than one injury. Improper motion is the key. And a very famous study was published. And this is a whale that I got to pet. Do you guys know where I am when I was petting this blue whale? Or I'm sorry, gray whale. Gray whale.
Probably off the Oregon coast somewhere.
Close.
California?
Close. Closer.
Baja?
Baja. This conversation does not leave this group. If you ever want to go on an amazing adventure, you have to go to Baja during the whale migration. It's the only whale migration of this kind in the world, and you can actually get on a boat and you can go pet these gray whales as they give birth. It will change your life forever. How does this have anything to do with arthritis? Well, whales, seals, sea lions, they get arthritis. And you go, how could that possibly be? They're floating around in water. They have very little gravitational effects on them. They're not in car accidents. They're not sitting at desks all day. And I will tell you that this study that was published proved to us that it is the improper motion or biomechanics of the body that causes osteoarthritis. You've heard me say this before if you're impatient. Movement is what? Life. And if you're not moving, you're dying. Even whales and sea lions and seals get arthritis because when they're doing their thing, their vertebrae misalign. And when they stay misaligned for years and decades, they start to develop arthritis. This picture doesn't leave this room. Okay? You get in an airplane and I'm only telling you this because I want everyone to experience this. Okay? And you fly into Loretto, and you have to be up for an adventure. And you rent a car in Loretto, and you drive up here and over to San Ignacio. It has to be during these 2 months of the year, and you hire someone to take you out. And if you're lucky like we were, you get to pet a gray whale, and you get to look into its eye, and they tell you something. They told me some things that it will change your life, but you have to be up for an adventure. Okay, the whales get arthritis as we do, and we know that it's not because of gravity, it's because of lack of proper motion. Science has proven, I'm into studying what geneticists say, which redefines my life as a chiropractor and how I can help serve you. The greatest geneticist that I've studied under, his name is Bruce Lipton. He writes many different books, and he says that our body is designed to have enough DNA, genetic material, to last us 125 years. Okay, I mean, I don't know if half the stuff I see on Facebook is true or not, but I read an article about a mountain man that lives in Nepal that they believe that he's over 200 years old. I mean, it is possible for us to live well over 100 years old. It's not only possible, it's probable if you know how to eliminate some of this nasty stuff from your life that I can teach you. None of us know, right? I said set the goal for 30 years. Set the goal for 30 years. All right, but it is definitely possible. So when your medical doctor says that, Seth, you're 25 years old now, and you're just going to be hurting because you got arthritis, look that doctor in the eye and say, I'm not buying it. And my answer to that always is, people with limited knowledge can only give you limited information. And it's not that they're bad or wrong, it's just that, what about all this other stuff that we can do? Okay? There's nothing normal about getting arthritis by the time you turn 50 or 60. we're talking about the spine now. This is an x-ray of the spine. Raise your hand if you've seen your neck x-rays. It's going to mean more to you right now. This is a very amazing study that was done by some doctors in Idaho. They have a huge clinic there. What they did is they took x-rays of a patient as they were degenerating and breaking down, and they turned it into a movie so that you can see how your spine breaks down when it's not moving properly. And this changed my life as a chiropractor. They released this 3 years ago. Okay, I'm going to tell you about what's going on right here. Notice that the spine is straightening. You're losing your curve, you're losing your shock absorber. That's probably about 8 years of dysfunction right there. Now it's reversing, it's going the opposite direction, the curve. Now you're getting close to 10 to 12 years of degeneration. The bones are changing shape. The issue's been there for so long that the bones are warping and changing. They're now developing bone spurs. The head keeps coming forward. The curve is worsening. It's shoving upward. It's blocking the neural canal. This person has tons of excruciating pain. Now the bones are fusing together because the body doesn't want to jeopardize the most vital organ in the body, the spinal cord. My best guess is this is probably, this could happen as early as 40 years. It could happen 60, 70 years. That's how when I see people, I have a really good idea of how long this has been going on for. I say, this has been going on for 20 years. And I say, that minimum 20, couple car accidents, maybe football injuries, gymnastic injuries. We can usually identify the injuries. This person right here, easily 20 years. Say, you've been breeding this problem for 20 years. Okay, this person, 30 plus, 40 years. Okay? The people who need to hear the story the most are the younger people who haven't gotten there yet. Then, if your spine does look like this, say, hey, good news, you showed up in a place that can help you. And we can't undo that, but we can sure make your life a lot better. Okay? Prevention. So, when there's lack of motion in a joint, the body starts to break down. Here's a healthy vertebra. Here's a sick vertebra. I'll wait for that to get a little bit. It starts to break down. And the top cells, the cells on the outer part of the bone are called chondrocytes. You don't need to know that word. But the cells on the outer side of the bone become damaged. And when the outer bone cells become damaged, the body starts to go into a state of inflammation. And when the body starts to come into a state of inflammation, it has no choice but to compensate for what it's doing. And then you multiply that by 10, 20 years, the discs start to wear out, and the bones start to develop these abnormal shapes. So if we can learn how to protect that cell from ever starting to deteriorate, we can keep you healthy. We got a great track record at it. Okay? Here's some prevention tips. Optimize cartilage health. There's lots of different supplements and things you can take for cartilage. Has anyone ever heard of any of them?
Take collagen.
Yeah? Yeah, good. When I was in Nepal, we got invited to have dinner at a lot of different homes, and they eat meat. And when we were in India, we hadn't eaten meat for like 4 months. And I do enjoy meat. So I was excited to go to Nepal and have some meat. So we get invited to this house, and they said, you want chicken? And I said, yes, I would love some chicken. And they take the chicken out of the oven or the fire, and they put it down on this block, and they get this big butcher knife, and they go, whack, 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 and they just start chopping away at this thing and turn it into a pile of chicken and parts. And they just start eating it. Bones and everything. They chew the bones. Now, we don't do this anymore. And I think we probably ought to, because there's a reason that they were trained. They learned to do that. It's for your health, right? We don't eat organs anymore either. I think we ought to eat organs too. Keep your joints moving. Even if your joints hurt and you have arthritis, you have to keep moving. And what's one way to move in an environment that creates less gravitational stress? What? Water. Excellent. But here's the problem. When you go into water, you actually will accelerate osteoporosis. So you have to be weight bearing. Use it or lose it. If you only exercise in the pool, you'll be like my grandmother-in-law, who swims a mile a day, does no weight bearing exercise, and fell down and broke her hip. If you live in that environment and you exercise in that environment, your body will break down faster. We know that. If you have osteoporosis, you have to do weight-bearing exercise. If you have arthritis, you need to do both. You've got to be moving. Move it or lose it. Decrease your body weight. So I said even something as little as 10 pounds can decrease stress on the joints, reduce stress on the joint cartilages, exercise, anti-inflammatory diet. I teach my toxin class. It's coming up on Thursday. So that this is my opportunity to pimp it for you. If you're looking for an anti-inflammatory diet that will help decrease stress of your joints, come to the class on Thursday. We'll talk about it. I have patients who we put on an anti-inflammatory diet that couldn't get out of bed in the morning. We start getting them adjusted, put them on healthy foods, and they almost come skipping in the door. It takes time, but it's true. I have patients tell me that their knee has hurt for 30 years. We get them adjusted, get their pelvis balanced, get them on an anti-inflammatory diet. It's like magic. And you don't have to take Celebrex, because we know what will happen if you do that. Okay? Function determines your structure. Okay? There's a really famous study. I'm giving you a lot of studies. There's a really famous study where they took a bunch of patients who had arthritis in the knee. Osteoarthritis in the knee, and they put them on exercise programs, and they found something very profound because they had to exercise in a way that didn't further create damage. But what they did is they strengthened the quadriceps muscle, this muscle right here, knee arthritis quadriceps muscle. The stronger they got this muscle and the more they exercised it, the better the knee felt. People had less pain and they could move more because they had stronger muscles. So here's the take home on that. If your knees hurt and you have arthritis, or if your shoulder hurts or your spine hurts, if we strengthen the muscles around the joint will be better supported. Agree?
Makes sense.
And we had to do this huge study to get this research published. So I give my elderly patients certain exercises, and they're not hard. You just have to do them, and you have to build these muscles up. Okay? My class is designed here tonight to get you thinking in a proactive way. Waiting until there's a problem is going to create a deeper problem. Okay? None of you are going to get through this life in the way that you want to if you don't take care of what matters most to you. So I had you write down what your 30-year vision is or what you want for your life. And I encourage you, work that, massage that out with your family and friends and your wife or your spouse. And Dr. Ashley and I are working on that right now. We're planning our 30-year because we have to know where we're going if we're going to get there. So I encourage you to do the same thing. And whatever is most important to you, you have to put your energy in there. And know one thing. If you give energy and life back to one cell in your body, there will go the rest of the cells in your body. It's not a chiropractic belief. It's not my philosophy for life. It's a fact of how the body heals. If you start to clean up your gut, the rest of your body will start to get cleaned up. If you start to change the way that you're thinking, the rest of your health will improve. If you start doing 15 knee extensions and that's it every day, all the rest of the cells in your body will go that direction and improve. It's a fact of life and health and wellness. This group right here represents less than 1% of the Pangea tribe. If you don't believe me, I'll show you the boxes of patients that we've had over the past five years. You're 1%. And Dr. Ashley and I have been running with the leaders in healthcare for 8 years right now. And I mean leaders. We travel all over the country to bring to you this information. Nancy's shaking her head. She knows it. She's known me that long. And there are some huge things planned for your future as part of this tribe. So big that I get goosebumps when I'm thinking about this. This isn't big enough. There's no way this is big enough. And when you show up here as a patient, you could be dealing with arthritis. You could be depressed. You could be dealing with heart condition. I don't I don't know what it is, but I know that all of those things are in this room. You show up and you can't do it on your own. And you shouldn't have to do it on your own. You shouldn't. Because we need each other. And when you come here, take those fears that you have for your health, take the desires that you wrote down on the 30-year plan, bring those with you and lay down on the table and let this community put their body on top of you and carry you. And that's all we need sometimes, is someone to say, you come here too? And you say, yeah, I'm part of this. And we're growing together. And you bring those fears here and you put them down on the table and you let them go so that when we deliver an adjustment, it's pure. And it starts to work with your body, not against your body, like the medications are. And you start to heal. And it might not happen overnight, and it probably won't. And in a year, and 2 and 3 years later, Nancy, you look at this and you go, I didn't even know I had a body before I showed up here. And you give it out, and you let it get absorbed by the people who are in this battle with you. I know that in healthcare, there are some very scary dark circles in this town. I know this. And when you walk through this door, this is a light. This is a light area. And we're going to love you, and we're going to serve you, and we're not going anywhere. If we do anything, we're going bigger. Okay? Don't go to the dark circles. Go towards the light. All right? This journey is going to continue for the rest of your life. You have to invest in what matters most and become a slave to it. Right, Indy?
Sounds like something back in you up there.
Build the good behaviors today. Whether you're 22 or whether you're 8.5 months old, build the good behaviors today and absolutely become a slave to them. And that's how you're going to get to your 30-year plan. Okay?
Okay.
Clap, Indy.
What did we do?